Okay, so in the last class, we were looking at the different structures within the eye. So we had looked at just different layers around the eyes. We started with conjunctiva, that was just a thin transparent membrane and which protects the whole of the eye structure. It's present throughout the front part of the eye. Then eyeball was the whole structure of the eye, which consists of three layers, that the outermost being sclera, inner one being choroid, and the third one being retina. Sclera was the hard fibrous tissue, which is like making whole of the eye structure, and the white portion that you see is nothing but the sclera. Outside the sclera, or rather at front portion, you will see a cornea where the sclera becomes more transparent. It is taken over by the cornea-like structure. So, like here it is shown here. And within the sclera, the main function of sclera is just to protect whole of the eye structure, being the fibrous and hard tissue. Within sclera, you have choroid. Choroid is another level which ends up becoming the ciliary muscles on the front side, which is holding the lens. Otherwise, choroid is very vascular in nature. That means it has a lot of blood vessels. And a most important point that we had discussed was the presence of melanin pigment in the choroid that will absorb all the unwanted, or rather the one which is not getting converted into the signal of the optic nerve, that will be present in terms of the choroid. That was the melanin pigment, which forms a dark layer, and we also discussed about the dark body thing, how it absorbs all the light and so on. So that is the choroid. And the one of the most important layer, that is the innermost layer, is the retina, that contains two types of cells, rod cells and cone cells. And these rod cells, they are responsible for dim light or the sight, or the like see through in the dim light. And uh, with the cone cells, we are able to see the bright light as well as the colors. And rod cells, they have rhodopsin pigment. Cone cells, they have iodopsin pigment. And the yellow spot, I said we will discuss. So today we will discuss that part. So this was the quick revision of what we had seen so far. Now, just to show you a little bit enlarged view of the retina. So you can see this is the eye structure, and just a simple portion or a small portion of this is enlarged into the different layers. So what you see is this outermost layer, this sky blue color, that is the sclera. This brown color is the choroid, and then this blue line, I would assume that they wanted to show it black in terms of melanin pigment layer. And then the inner one, starting from this kind of squarish cells, that will be whole of it will be the retinal layer. Now within retina, you can actually see these cone cells. These are the small cone cells. And then there are some cells which are rod cells. And you can see the rod cells, they are kind of differently colored because they are able to receive a particular wavelength, and then they transmit the signal into these what we call as neurons or neuronal network, that will be taking the signal from these axons through the optic nerve, and then that will be passed on to the brain. So that's the whole of. These are called as ganglion cells, because this part we will study in the central nervous system. Ganglion is something which is the a nerve cell has a polar body and a long axon structure. So
So
that
which was the part you were telling contains melanin?
sorry,
What was the part that contains melanin? You were telling something, right?
The part that contains melanin is
melanin is the choroid layer.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
This bluish thing or bluish line that they have shown.
oh,
So ganglion is that cluster of the cell bodies of all the neurons. That is where the nucleus of the uh, neuron or a nerve cell lies. That's what is called as ganglion. And that ganglion is connected through a network into the final optic nerve. And then, of course, they have shown a retinal artery which will supply the blood to retina. These are called bipolar cells because they have both ways communication ability and so on. So there are these different like type of cells present. And then there is something called as retinal pigment epithelium. This is like a regular epithelial tissue, which does the regular functioning of processing of the metabolism and so on, like how every other cell does, and does the inner lining of that particular organ also. So similarly, there is this inner lining of the retina, that is RPE, and that's how the structure of the retina look like. Again, this is a representation, and that too in a section. Three-dimensionally, if you try to imagine, this will be more and more complex structure. But again, we don't have to go into that much detail. For from this diagram, what you need to remember is only the presence of rod cells and cone cells, how they are arranged, and also in just the general shape. Why they are called so is because they look like rod and they look like cone cells, and that's it. And of course, these three different layers: sclera, choroid, melanin, and the retina itself. So that is the quick overview. Now the next structure that we are going to look at is the iris. Now this is another interesting structure when we talk of the eye uh, as a whole organ. So it is the extension of the choroid. Extension of the choroid in the sense, when the choroid comes on the front side, that becomes like an extension. So within the choroid layer, so the sclera on the front part becomes like a cornea. Choroid, which is the inner layer, becomes like iris structure, covering the lens, partially covering the lens, and leaving a circular opening at the center. So if you see this whole of the eye structure, this one, the bluish thing that they have shown, is the iris, and then there is small opening at the center which appears black, and we assume that this is a black structure. It is not a structure as such, it is rather the opening. That is what is pupil. And the depending on how much of the pupil is like dilated or constricted, this opening size will vary of the pupil. So iris is this muscular structure present in the eye, which is an extension of the choroid, and with an opening at the center, that is called as pupil. So pupa literally means doll in the Latin word. That's where this word is coming. So in colloquial term, we also call it as a eye doll, right? Again, that's like not an official or scientific terminology. It's just something people call it colloquially. So that is iris and pupil. It can be of any different color, that is blue, black, brown, green, gray, and so on. There are different colors. So when you see a particular person has green colored eyes, that means their iris structure is of green color, and this is decided by different genes or genetic factors. Based on their combination of which genes are expressed more or less, they will have that particular color. So let's say, for example, if someone's eyes are gray, they might have two or three different genes which are coding for the eye color, that is color of the iris, and then they will express a particular gene at particular amount, and that combination color will be given to the eyes of that particular person. So that is what the color of the eyes, they will be indicated by the iris structure. Now, very interesting in terms of its arrangement, iris has radial muscles. Radial means from the center, they are extending out towards the circumference. That's what is radial arrangement. So iris has radial muscles to widen in the sense to increase the size, and circular muscles to constrict. Circular muscles as in ring like, concentric ring. I guess, no, I don't have a diagram, but I must show you this because it will be interesting to see. Iris muscle diagram. I'm not sure if it is sphincter muscle. Yes, something like this, I guess. Not really true. Um, yeah, but here I can explain you. So you can just forget the diagram, just look at the structure. So these ones, yellow lines, they will be called as radial muscles. So they are arranged along the radius. And let's say if you extend this green line and make it a complete circle, that will be the circular muscle. So they are all present in the concentric circle, along with this radial muscle. So that's how the arrangement of this iris structure is, and it's a muscular structure. That means muscles are there. And why muscles are there? Because the pupil has to dilate or pupil has to constrict so that the iris structure itself can widen or constrict. And this particular adjustment of the size of the pupil will regulate the amount of light entering in the eye. So when you are in very bright light, you usually tend to constrict your eyes. That not the constriction of the whole eyes, rather you tend to constrict the iris. So ultimately the pupil size goes smaller. So the amount of light entering within the eye is less. You might have seen in the like if you have ever been to an ophthalmologist, they take a very fine light which is like a kind of very stark and sharp, almost like a laser light, but it's not a laser light. It's just pointy with the what we call as monopolar beam. And that doctor then they tries to look through the pupil structure and they look at the internal structure of the eye. That is the how is the retinal structure aligned and so on. So what they do is they put that beam of light through the pupil and then they observe the structures inside. And for that they usually use eye drop called as atropa, which is atropine, which is one of the compound chemical, I mean medicine, and that will dilate the pupil. So it becomes easier to observe the structures inside. So that is how the ophthalmologist they usually check it. Next time, if at all you go to ophthalmologist, just do ask them, how are you doing? What are you doing? All of these questions, you will understand it in much better way. So the main function of this pupil is to adjust the size so that it can regulate the amount of light entering the eye structure. Then the in usually the dim light or darker light, the amount of light itself is less. So obviously the pupil is more dilated so that more light can be. It's like what is that pinhole concept? If you want more light to be captured, you have a bigger objective. And if you want, if the light is too bright, then you choose to look at those structures through a very fine gap. So it's the similar concept of the pupil here. If it is dark or dim light, pupil will be dilated so that maximum amount of signal can be gathered. While if you are looking at the bright light, the pupils are usually constricted so that the amount of light that you that enters in the eye structure is less and sufficient as well. So the pattern and the arrangement of iris muscle is unique for every individual. So again, something that you see very commonly in the movies, eye scanner. That is because of this pattern of arrangement of the iris muscle, and that is very unique. So one of the diagram that I was showing you, this one. This is a kind of pattern that you see. You can see these different small muscles, and this pattern is very typical to every individual. It cannot be like same for two individuals. It's something same like again fingerprints, which are very unique to individuals. So that pattern and arrangement of iris muscle is unique, and that is when sometimes it can be used as what we say the individual identification. So that is the iris structure. Does anyone have any question here? It's clear. Okay, so then there is just some basic differences in the rod cells and cone cells that I have put in here. You can read it out on your own. There is nothing great as such. Like for example, rod cells, they are more numerous. Now again, you think of why rod cells has to be numerous, because their function is to identify the dim light. Now, if it is a dim light and if there are less number of cells, obviously the amount of signal that your eyes will get will also be less. So that is when these cells are a little more in number. And cone cells, they are sensitive to bright light as well as the color. So that's why they have to be less numerous. So that is like a general description. Again, the rest of the point, they remain same, mostly at the periphery of the retina, because again, whole of the light has to be gathered. Mostly at the center of the retina, because again even the small proportion of these cone cells will be sufficient enough to gather the signal. So even if they are at the center, that is good enough. So like logically, if you think of these points, you will understand all of this. So I'm not going over these two differences. If at all you have questions about this, you can come back about this, like asking about this later. So now talking of the yellow spot. Now yellow spot is actually the point which is the place of best vision for the normal eye. That means of highest clarity and the visual acuity. Acuity is the term that is like accuracy kind of. So clarity, that means the way you see, like when we say picture is very clear and the pixels are not breaking, that's something like highest clarity. And visual acuity, that means you are able to see each and every structure very clearly throughout. So that is that particular point within the eye structure where there is a best of vision of the eye, that is called as yellow spot. Now so if you go back to this particular line, the retinal structure, the cone cells, they are confined mostly to the yellow spot. Now why that is so? Because the cone cells, they when the light is entering the eye and the small amount of light is entering through the eye, because it's cone cell, so and bright light, so only the pupil will be constricted, so that means small amount of light will enter, and that light has to be sufficient enough to pass on the signal from the optic nerve to the brain to identify whatever that person had seen. So that is when this yellow spot, sorry, it has most of these cone cells. Around the yellow spot, obviously there will be non-uniform distribution of rods and cones. So it is not just that the cone cells are present. It just the cone cells, they are mostly confined. That means most of these cone cells, they are present in and around the yellow spot. But there is still some non-uniform distribution. That means the number of rods and cone cells, that will be not equal. That is what is non-uniform distribution. The yellow spot, which is also called as macula lutea, sorry, not lutea, macula lutea, or it's also called as fovea centralis. Again, fovea centralis, you may or may not remember, but you should remember this macula lutea. That is the another important name. It lies at the back of the eye, almost at the center of the horizontal axis of the eyeball. So if you, I guess, where is that diagram? Oh, I don't have a diagram. Wonderful. Fine. Let me show it to you here. So let's say the light is entering horizontally through cornea, conjunctiva, cornea, lens. It enters into the inner cavity. Right at the center, that is the horizontal center of the eye structure, that is where this yellow spot will be located at, because that's the exactly parallel light to the axis of the eye at the center, and that's where this yellow spot is located. And yeah, that's it, and it is on the back side, that is on the retinal layer. Do not get confused with this yellow spot being present. Especially the another misconception that most of the people have is presence of yellow cells or something yellow happens there, that there is no connection as such with the yellow, except there is a particular wavelength which corresponds to the yellow color. That is what is the maximum absorb, and so it is called as yellow spot. But that again, we don't have to indulge into that description. So one of the most important part that you should remember with respect to yellow spot, it is present at the back of the eye on the retinal layer, and it is present at the horizontal axis at the center of the eyeball. It has maximum number of sensory cells. Like we had seen, more number of cone cells and rod cells, they are confined to this yellow spot. So that is what is maximum number of sensory cells, particularly cones. And as a result, it is a region of the brightest vision and also of the color vision. So whichever light enters within the yellow spot area, you will be able to see it very clearly. And the rest of the retina has fewer cones and more rod cells. Again, this we already seen. Why more rod cells? Because the light is dim, pupils are dilated, so they are also getting more of the signal, and that is why it has to have more rod cells in the surrounding, apart from the yellow spot. And why we keep on moving while we are reading? So this is the reason why you move your eyesight from word to word while reading. Like when we read, we don't look at one point and then we read. We actually keep on shifting our eyesight from a point to point, that is from word to word. And the reason being yellow spot, because your eyes try to, for every word, they try to manage the whole of the yellow spot at one particular time, for reading a particular word. And when you have to read the next word, the yellow spot will try to bring it into the sight. Of course, it is within the sight, but at the best vision point. And that's how you keep on moving your eyesight while you are reading from word to word reading. Any question here so far in the yellow spot? I hope this part is clear as well. Oh, okay. Okay. Then there is something apart from yellow spot called as blind spot. So, so blind spot is present lateral to the yellow spot on the nasal side. Lateral means on the side and towards the nasal side. So now nasal side is little below, right? Compared to the eyes, the nose is below structure, and that is what is lateral, as in towards the side, but side lower. So that's where this blind spot is present within the eyes. It has no sensory cells. So you can simply imagine what would be the effect of this blind spot. No sensory cell here, so the point of no vision. That is what is blind spot. Yellow spot is the point of highest accuracy, as well as more clarity, and blind spot is the point of no vision because there are no sensory cells. Yellow spot has maximum sensory cells, blind spot has no sensory cells. So a point at which a nerve fibers from all the sensory cells of the retina converge. Converge means they will come together and bundle together to leave the eyeball as optic nerve. So if I show you in this diagram here, right, this becomes the point of blind spot. Like this is the whole retina structure. Like if you see in this smaller diagram, whole of the retina structure, the point from which the optic nerve exits the eye structure, where there are no sensory cells, that is the point which is called as blind spot, and which is lower to the yellow spot, lower on this side. I hope again this part is clear to you. So there are these two, yellow spot and blind spot. I guess I will show you this particular video. I hope it has the same description. But yeah, let's revise it through the video. And I hope it's small. No, it's not small. Fine.
What you must be seeing on your screen is a dot on the left and a plus sign on the right with a yellow background color.
Okay, this is also a kind of activity that is being shown. So we go through it and then I will talk about it.
We are going to perform a demonstration to find the blind spot of our eye. Yes, our eye has a blind spot. What is it though? And what does it mean? It is a spot on the retina of the eye where we cannot see the light when it's incident on it. I will explain its details a little bit later, but first I will prove its existence to you through an experiment. Okay, let's go back to the start again.
So along with this, if you also do it, it will be best for you. Yeah.
Close your left eye and stay still with your right eye focused on the dot. Yes, I want you to stay still and concentrate with your right eye on the dot present on the left of your screen. Now with your left eye closed, I want you to slowly bring your face towards the screen. At some point in time, you will find that the plus sign on the right disappears. Yes, but in order for that to happen, you must focus only on the dot and nothing else. Okay, try it one more time. You can cover your left eye with your left hand, focus only on the dot, and slowly come closer to the screen. Did you find the plus sign disappearing at some point? I'm sure you did. You can try it again. Left eye closed and focus on the dot. You can do the same thing using a blank piece of paper. Draw a dot on the left and a plus sign on the right. Make sure that there is nothing else written or drawn on the paper. Hold the paper at arm's length with one hand, preferably the right one. Close your left eye with the other hand and focus your right eye on the dot. Bring the paper towards you. Again, you will find that at some distance away from you, the plus sign disappears. At this distance, it will seem to you that there is no plus sign present. This distance is different for different people. And the other image disappears only at a particular distance. If you go closer, you will see the blurred version of the other image. And yes, even if you close your right eye and focus on the plus sign while coming closer, you will see that the dot will disappear. So next, let's get into the details of this and see how and why it happens.
So I hope you will try this activity. It is also a good exercise to know what is the distance at which we see a clear like vision. So for that, this activity is very useful. So maybe you can check out this video later again and try to do it for yourself.
So there is a blind spot present in the eye. We have already discussed the structure of the human eye in our previous video. We know that the convex lens present in the eye focuses the light on the retina. And the retina has two types of nerve cells, cones and rods. These cells transfer the sensation to the brain through the nerves. These transporting nerves are present in front of the nerve cells. They are connected directly to the brain and hence they transfer the message to it. They go into the brain through this region, and this region is called the blind spot. The junction of the retina and the optic nerve is called the blind spot. Unlike the rest of the retina, this region does not contain nerve cells and hence no signal is transferred to the brain. The reason that we're not able to see the plus sign from the right eye at some distance is because at this distance, the lens in the eye focuses the light in this region. And since there are no nerve cells present in this region, no message reaches the brain. And that's why they say that every person is partially blind. It's because every eye has this blind spot. There is another interesting thing about the human eye that you've got to know. And that is, any picture persists in the eye for about 1/10 to 1/15 of a second. That's right. It means that the brain retains the impression of that light for approximately 1/15 of a second after the source of that light is removed. That is very little time. This is referred to as the persistence of vision. And let me explain this in detail. I have many different images.
So we'll talk about this persistence of vision later. So I just mainly wanted to show you this particular part of the blind spot and the yellow spot. So I hope you know now what is blind spot, what is yellow spot, and just that small activity altogether. Yeah, now the next structure in sequence. So again, if we go back, we looked at the structures around the eye, that is the sclera, choroid, retina. Then we were looking at the iris structure, which is a muscular structure. Then we looked at yellow spot, blind spot, and now we are looking at the next structure within the eye, that is the lens. Now, lens is transparent, biconvex crystalline body. Crystalline does not literally mean it's a made up of crystal structure. It's like crispy, like a crystal. It's like in synonyms with crystal, how crystals are. That is why it is called as crystalline body. And it is optically transparent. Like most of the crystals, they are also optically transparent. Again, depends though. but still. So this is like kind of similar to that. Located behind the pupil. So now we have seen iris and pupil, that is the opening of the iris. Just behind that there is a lens structure, and it contains transparent lens fibers, which are thin cells without nuclei. Lens does not have the nucleus containing cells, though the cells are present. So that is the lens fiber, and all of them, they are transparent because of the content that is present within them. Lens is collectively held in a position by fibers, which is called a suspensory ligament, and which attaches it to the ciliary body. So ciliary body was that extension of choroid, and that choroid is extending further into the suspensory ligament, which is holding the eye structure. Literally, like if you are holding a book within like thumb upwards and four fingers downward, obviously not 1 and 4 in numbers, but something holding from the top as well as from the bottom. That's how the suspensory ligament, they are holding the lens structure. So ciliary body, they lie at the junction of the choroid, that is the extension of the choroid I spoke of, and the iris, and is itself a part of the choroid. So the junction of the choroid and the iris, that's where the ciliary bodies are present. And these are the muscles that contains elastic muscles fiber, which on contraction and relaxation change the shape of the lens. So like sometimes you would know of the situations, like the reason why most of the people have glasses is because their lens is either constricted or it is elongated, and both of this constriction and relaxation of the lens can happen is because of the ciliary muscles, which are elastic in nature. So if they are getting stretched outward because of the strain on the eye, then that lens will get elongated. Or if the ciliary muscles, they are completely relaxed, then the lens structure will become stout, or it will become kind of constricted. So that change in shape of the lens uh, is happening because of the ciliary muscles. And this usually happens for viewing objects at different distances. Like sometimes you constrict your eyes and you try to look at the things, or you try to make it wide open and then you try to look at the things. So that particular concept happens because of the ciliary muscles which are present around the lens structure. So again, just to show you this whole part. So this is the lens which is held by this ciliary body, and this filament or ligament like structure, that is the suspensory ligament, and it is present on the both side. And like I said, what you are seeing is the 2-dimension. If you imagine in the 3-dimension, the whole of the round lens, that will be held within the eye structure with the help of the ciliary body as well as suspensory ligament. Yeah. Okay, so that was the lens. Now the chambers within the eye, or the cavities of the eye. So there are these two main chambers, what is called as aqueous and the vitreous chamber. So aqueous chamber, it is the front chamber between lens and cornea. So like again, conjunctiva, then cornea, and then what you enter is the aqueous chamber. That is what present between the lens and the cornea. It is filled with clear watery liquid called as aqueous humor. And also notice the spelling of the humor. This is not your regular humor. This is something different. So it is filled with a clear watery liquid, which is called aqueous humor. And again, the main function of this aqueous humor is to keep the lens moist and protect it from the physical shock. And it refracts the light. That is what is the another function, refraction of light, so that the signal can be translated into the usable information by the retinal structure. Again, but that is not within the scope of the syllabus, so we will not discuss much about it. Main function is to keep the lens moist and protect it from the physical shock. That is the aqueous chamber containing aqueous humor. Aqueous, that means it is water-based system. That's why aqueous. And then the second chamber, which is present at the center of the eyeball, that is vitreous chamber. It is the larger cavity of the eyeball behind the lens. So from the front side, first you will meet is the aqueous chamber, and then within, once you cross the lens, at the center of the eyeball will be vitreous chamber. It is filled with transparent jelly-like thicker liquid. The vitreous liquid or vitreous humor is little thicker in consistency compared to the aqueous one, and it's also called vitreous glassy and so on. But you can simply remember vitreous fluid or vitreous humor, which is present within the vitreous cavity. The rather the function of this vitreous chamber is to help in keeping the shape of the eyeball. It's like a balloon which is filled with air, and that will maintain a roundish shape. Something same happens with the eyeball structure as well. When that eyeball structure is filled with this vitreous fluid, that's when it maintains the round shape. Sometimes you might have heard that some people, they have too much of eye pressure. So that is a direct indication of this amount of vitreous fluid present in the eye. So if someone's eyes are paining like crazy, like throbbing pain we call it, that could happen because of the pressure in the eye that has increased. That means the amount of liquid or fluid present within the vitreous chamber is increased. And if it is less, then there will be problems within the seeing an object. Blurred vision is the common phenomena there. So that is what is vitreous chamber and the vitreous humor. And it also protects the retina, obviously, because it is lining or it's in contact with the retina directly, and its nerve endings. That is where they will take the signal to the optic nerve. So protection of whole of this internal structure, including retina, is done by the vitreous chamber. Any questions so far? Anyone? Okay, so I will say we will stop here. In next one class, we'll try to finish whole of this rest of it. It's very simpler topics. And then we will stop for like this whole topic. And then I guess in the after the exam, we will talk of the year and stuff. Otherwise, we'll have the revision if at all you guys want.